Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Rich Clark. I've been a hypnotherapist for the last 8 years and a holistic therapist for the last 14 to 15 years. Now for Throwback Thursday, you should talk about my favourite films, my favourite TV shows and favourite music albums. So this week I've been showing posts about Halloween, witches and so forth. So I'm not going to do a Halloween film or thriller films because it's not really my thing. But I'm going to talk about a film related to Day of the Dead. And I think this is the best Disney film for the last 10-15 years, and it's called Coco, and it was released in 2017. Now Coco was produced by the Pixar Animation Studios, released by Disney. It was directed by Lee Unkrich and co-directed by Adrian Molina and produced by Darla K. And it's from a screenplay by Molina and Matthew Aldrich. And this story was originally an idea conceived by Unkrich. The story follows a 12-year-old boy named Miguel who accidentally is transported to the land of the dead, where he seeks the help of his deceased musician great-grandfather to return him to his family and reverse the ban on music. The concept of Coco is inspired by the Mexican holiday Day of the Dead. So, the plot of this is in the Mexican town of Santa Cecilia, a young woman named Imelda marries a man who eventually leaves her and their daughter Coco to pursue a music career. When he never returns, Imelda bans music from her family and opens a shoemaking business. Decades later, Imelda's great-great-grandson Miguel lives in the family home with his parents and relatives, including an elderly and ailing Coco. Despite the family's continued ban on music,
runs our house just like Mama Imelda did.
No music! No music! No music!
I think we're the only family in Mexico who hates music. And my family's fine with that. But me?
Be back by lunch, mijo.
Love you, Mama! I am not like the rest of my family.
Hola, Miguel.
Hola! Muchas gracias.
De nada, Miguel.
Hey, Dante! Sit, down, roll over, shake. Fist bump. Good boy, Dante! It's you. You're gonna get me in trouble, Dante. Someone could hear me. I wish someone wanted to hear me. Other than you. Okay. I know I'm not supposed to love music.
No music! No music!
Miguel secretly loves it and teaches himself to play guitar by watching videos of his idol, the late musician Ernesto de la Cruz. On the Day of the Dead, Miguel inadvertently bumps the family ofrenda and breaks a frame containing a photo of Imelda and an infant Coco. He discovers a hidden secret of the photo, and that shows his great-great-grandfather, whose head has been torn from the photo, holding Ernesto's famous guitar. Believing this proves Ernesto is his relative. Miguel excitedly tells his family about his musical aspirations. In response, Miguel's grandmother destroys his guitar. Distraught, Miguel breaks into Ernesto's mausoleum and takes his guitar to use in a local talent competition. Once Miguel strums it, it becomes invisible to all living people. However, he can interact with his skeletal dead relatives, who are visiting from the land of the dead for the holiday.
What's going on? Dante! Dante! Oh, I'm sorry.
Miguel?
Miguel!
You're here. Here. And you can see us?
Remind me how I know you?
We're your family, mijo.
Tía Rosita?
Sí.
Papa Julio?
Hola.
Tía Victoria?
He doesn't seem entirely dead. He's not quite alive either.
We need Mama Imelda. She'll know how to fix this. Oye!
It's Mama Imelda. She couldn't cross over. She's stuck on the other side.
Tío Oscar? Tío Felipe?
Oh, hey, Miguel.
I have a feeling this has something to do with you.
But if Mama Imelda can't come to us...
Then we are going to her. Vámonos. Come on, Miguel. It's okay.
Dante? Dante? Dante, wait up! You gotta stay with me, boy. We don't know where...
Taking him back with them, they realise Imelda cannot visit since Miguel removed her photo from the ofrenda. Miguel also discovers that he's been cursed for stealing from the dead. He must receive a family blessing to return to the living world before sunrise, or he'll remain in the land of the dead forever. Imelda offers him a blessing on the condition that he abandons music, but Miguel refuses and seeks Ernesto's blessing instead. Miguel encounters Hector, a down-on-his-luck skeleton who once performed with Ernesto. Hector offers to bring Miguel to Ernesto in exchange for Miguel placing his photo on an ofrenda so he can visit his daughter before she forgets him, which would cause him to fade from existence. Hector helps Miguel perform in a talent competition to win entry to Ernesto's mansion, but Miguel flees after being discovered by his family. Miguel sneaks into Ernesto's mansion and is welcomed by a surprised Ernesto, but Hector appears and accuses Ernesto of stealing his songs. As the two argue, Miguel slowly pieces together the truth. Ernesto and Hector were once a musical act on the brink of fame until Hector grew homesick and tried to leave. Unable to write songs himself, Ernesto poisoned Hector and stole his guitar and songs to pass off as his own. To protect his legacy, Ernesto seizes Hector's photo and has Miguel and Hector thrown into a C-note pit. There, Miguel discovers that Hector is his actual great-grandfather and that Coco is Hector's daughter. After being rescued by his family, Miguel reveals the truth about Hector's death, and Imelda and Hector reconcile. The family infiltrates Ernesto's concert to retrieve Hector's photo. Ernesto's crimes are exposed to the audience, who quickly turn on him, and he's crushed by a falling bell mirroring his fate in life. Although Hector's photograph is lost in the chaos, as the sun rises, Imelda and a fading Hector bless Miguel and return him to the living world. Back home, Miguel apologises to his family for running away and plays "Remember Me," which is the key song on the soundtrack, to his guitar, brightening Coco to sing along with him. She shares that she kept the torn photo of Hector's face and tells the family stories about her family preserving his memory as well as his existence in the land of the dead. Miguel reconciles with his family, ending the ban on music. 1 year later, Miguel shows his new baby sister, Socorro, the family ofrenda, now displaying the photos of Hector and the recently deceased Coco. Coco's collected letters from Hector prove Ernesto's theft of his songs, leading to Ernesto's disgrace and Hector's rightful recognition. In the land of the dead, Hector joins Imelda, Coco and their family for a visit to the living world, and Miguel performs a heartfelt song. So, why is this film really interesting? Well, for a start, to have a Mexican tradition done in this way into a Western world is quite unusual. It was very risky. In fact, it was very risky. They spent a lot of money on it, and it could have flopped for Disney, like a lot of Disney flops have. But I think what it was the guy who actually wrote it, Lee Unkrich, and he has been accused of he stole it from a Mexican writer again. So it's quite ironic that it's the same process of the story of stealing writing. But however, Lee Unkrich though it was initially the film was to be about American child learning about its Mexican heritage. Eventually, the team decided that was the wrong approach and reformed the film to focus on a Mexican child instead. On the original version, Unkrich noted that it reflected the fact that none of us at the time were from Mexico. The fact that the film depicted a real culture caused anxiety for Unkrich, who felt a humongous responsibility of his shoulders to do the right thing. The Pixar team actually made a lot of research, several trips to Mexico, to help define the story and characters of Coco. And it was portrayed in folk art, and a lot of the ideas, the juxtaposition of skeletons with bright festive colours that captured my imagination, which is ideal for animation. Also, Coco took inspiration from a couple of films by a guy called Hayao Miyazaki, which he did films with in Japan, Spirited Away, Howl's Moving Castle, as well as the action film John Wick. So there's a lot of Japanese influence in Coco, but done in a Mexican format, which made the animation very interesting. So Disney requested to trademark the phrase Dia de la Muertes for merchandising applications, but it was met with criticism in the Mexican American community. So there's a lot of this that some people didn't like that it was done, but what it actually did was Coco was the first motion picture with a 9-figure budget to feature an all-Latino cast. It actually cost $175 million to $200 million, which was a hell of a risk for something they didn't know if it was going to be successful or not. And the other thing is with it, what was very interesting is actually as a film, they wanted it to do well in China, but they were worried that China wouldn't accept it because China are against certain ethics and traditions. But actually the Chinese loved the story, and that's why it actually became very successful in China. It's actually, I think, the 3rd or 4th biggest Disney selling film over there, because the story was so inspiring and so interesting. So because of this, I feel the reason why this film is massively successful is due to that it's for children. It explains Day of the Dead. It does it in an interesting way. It also explains with a moral about the idea of that people shouldn't take credit for other people's work. And I think it's got this moralistic ways which Disney have lost, is the storytelling has been lost over time. They've done some good films, but the stories are not there. Wish, I thought, was actually quite decent, but it seems to have got slated by critics. But I thought Coco, what it did was it really showed that you could make a film which was explaining history, explaining tradition, but done in an interesting way. And I think Coco, to me, is, for anybody who's got children, I think if they watch Coco, they can understand the Day of the Dead. Also, Day of the Dead is now becoming a festival which is celebrated around the world. And I think, personally, Coco has also accelerated that, because the idea is, in most cultures outside of Mexico and India, they don't celebrate their ancestors. And the ancestors are actually very important to who we are. And I think Coco kind of does this in a way of to understand of what inspires us and where our traditions and where our influences come, and where also genetically we may have our talents. So I thought Coco was a very interesting film. It talked about spirituality in a really interesting way. Probably actually was better than Soul in that respect, because I thought it was done in a more comedic way, whereas I thought Soul I don't think it was as interesting. It was quite complex for kids, whereas I thought Day of the Dead was, Coco was actually explained Day of the Dead a lot more in a succinct way. So my highly recommendation, Throwback Thursday, for Coco, as you'll see the clips during it, I think it's one of the best Disney films and got a huge rating, and I think also doing well at the box office helps. And it's a film I watch every year along with a certain amount of films, and I always actually find something more interesting every time I watch it. So yeah, if you want to know about Day of the Dead and you want to explain it to your children or young people, I think them watching that film, they'd understand it. And I think Day of the Dead is something where we should actually be very much blessing and rewarding, and actually